Oh, look at that. Background is not set. Hey guys, good evening. Let me go ahead and adjust my background here. We don't want that now, do we? Nope. That looks pretty cool. That's much better. All right. And then let me go ahead and adjust the file there so we can get you going. What say you? What do we say? Do we feel like red tonight or possibly purple? Purple looks pretty good, I would say. So we'll go that direction. And I don't feel very filtery. I feel like a bright colors, if that makes sense. All right, guys. Well, good evening. Good to see everybody. I know I'm like on time, believe it or not. But let's wait and see and have everybody kind of join us for just a couple of seconds. So good to see you. Hey guys, how's it going? Kalina, Jessica, what's up, guys? Vivian, hello. Yeah, Nessie, what's up? Good to see you. And packaging design class, I kind of want to try, while we wait for the class to show up, I would love to take a look at maybe some of your designs this evening. And then maybe we can use the first 30 minutes of the class while everyone's kind of checking in, just to kind of see how your designs are coming along. Will that work for you guys? We'll use like the first 30 minutes to kind of share some designs and see how that's looking, okay? So for packaging design, we'll start off with you guys. Would anyone like to go first and just kind of share where their designs are so we can get like maximize our 30 minutes and just share some designs and things of that sort? Okay, all right, Jess, come on, go for it, man. We should be able to share our screen and then we'll get some input in about your design and see where we are from there, okay?
Yeah, totally. Let me kind of get it ready here for a second.
Yeah. It's been definitely been a long last couple of weeks, so yeah. hopefully we can get back into the swing, as it were.
Yeah, totally. So here's where I am like at the moment. Nice. I've been following this like ribbon tag kind of thing. So this is where I am, and then here is where I am for the actual like cheese wheel itself.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So we're sticking with the tag, and if I recall last time, can I take a look at the image on the left there just to get a little bit of a visual for what that is, and just want to see.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's looking great.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and that was versus the bell, right?
Yeah, the bell is over here.
Okay, and then we have a cheese.
Yeah, and then seeing what the cheese look like, seeing what kind of like first place prized farm animal ribbon kind of vibe.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of us that are just joining us, digital illustration, so the packaging design is Baby Bell. So if you've ever had Baby Bell in the store, it's always like at a particular location, right? And so Jess is like, oh, could we potentially take that package and maybe make it a little bit more pleasant? And I think we're taking inspiration from another genre of food, Jess, if I recall.
Yeah, totally.
I think
I'm looking at, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So the packaging is garlic, right? So because it's kind of similar, could we kind of use that format to kind of combine the shapes, as it were?
Yeah, to kind of make it for like a easier ergonomic fit. I don't know if like how much of the rest of the class has seen it, but I know I was doing like a little comparing with kind of like how this garlic looks and how their current packaging looks. It's kind of like a looser bag. So opted for like a tighter fit here.
Good. Yeah, and you were at the stage where we were kind of checking on the tags. And right. Do you have a favorite there? And then maybe we can ask the class too. Like we have like the sunrise tag, which is kind of hanging on the bottom there.
Yeah.
Cheese tag.
I think my favorite was kind of this one. I'm not sure if, yeah, it's not over here because I just kind of took it. I'm like really scattered when I work. When I realize it now when I show you guys, I'm like, man, I'm so like all over the place with what I'm doing.
No, it's good that you do a lot of experimentation, as we say.
Yeah, this one here is my favorite. You know, starting to deviate from the black and white process of making the logo tag. So adding some color and trying to make things more brand friendly, as it were. For the cheese wheel too, the one that I'm kind of hovering over is my current, or where I'm at right now.
Okay. It might be, kind of intuitive, but I'm almost wondering too, like, oh, I wonder if even the round tag is something that we can go with,
Mhm.
or something where it's kind of a combination of like round mixed in with Baby Bell in a way. Um, just looking at the tags, let's take a look. Because part of me is also like, oh, I would love to just see like just a round tag on the bottom, because if everything's round,
Mhm.
round, round, and then there's just one round tag, that could even
Mhm.
maybe the Baby Bell like redesign of the logo could be the actual tag on the bottom. So kind of like where the cheese wheel is, instead of having it be like the cheese tag, it's just a regular Baby Bell tag too. That could even be just an option just to push the
For,
brand that much
for
more.
sure.
And then the bell, can we take a look at the bell one more time?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, and it's interesting how like the first concepts are always kind of like the comparison going forward from there. But let's take a look. And it would hang technically kind of like at the top there, as it were. I'm almost wondering if it would be interesting to kind of have it sort of like go from top to bottom. So like almost like thinking about the tag as the container as a continuation of the tag. So we start with the tag and it kind of like morphs into like the volume almost.
Mhm.
So like I know like the original concept you had it hanging from the bottom, and I kind of like that idea now, because I get it, the bell hanging from the bottom, like that whole concept of it.
Yeah, it was following that good, like, like a real, like a cowbell kind of thing as it
Hmm.
hangs. Yeah, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying though, for sure. Like how this garlic would hang, like, there would probably be like a perforated or like a cut hole here where it would go on like a little peg.
Yeah, and I
You know?
think I would love to kind of see the tags evolve going from top towards the bottom, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So what would it look like if we actually started from the top, and what would that tag look like starting from the top on the opposite side?
Right.
Would it be round with rays coming down to it? So, and then kind of working with the color combinations, it would be great. I would love to see like a variation of like the colors going into like reds and kind of sticking with those reds, the red and the white with highlights of yellow and green, to kind
Mhm.
of see it. So almost kind of like what you have in the tag on the bottom right there, like the mini Baby Bell, almost like that sort of approach with the graphic. I kind of like the way it's sort of like in the negative space on the lower right there. Um,
Right.
I kind of like that. I'm almost wondering what would that look like if it was inside the tag on the upper right, if that makes sense.
Uh, yeah. See, I
So
have like so much stuff. I'm like, so which one I don't know which
yeah,
one you're talking about.
let me go
Um,
ahead and annotate, and then that way I
for
can
sure. Yeah, I should have
uh,
labeled them. So
no worries. Let's take a look.
yeah.
So part of me is kind of like, I kind of like where this is going here. And I
Oh
really
yeah.
like
Right.
specifically how like in the negative space, there's like the sun and everything of that sort, right?
Hmm.
And I'm almost running like, what would this graphic here, like I like how it's like negative and working within that. I do like the mini as well. And I think the Baby Bell could possibly be modified a little bit. I'm actually wondering if maybe like this type could potentially work over here as an option,
Hmm.
and then kind of see that like a copy in there. So keep this on what we're pointing to, but then maybe copy and paste it over to the right hand side using like the type from over here on the left, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So I like that. And then I'm almost wondering what this particular concept will look like going from this to the tag upward there. So like what would like the sunray
Hmm.
version of that look like?
Right. How would they relate and stuff?
Correct.
Yeah.
It could work. Then again, it might not work, but I think it's evolving and at a good pace where it's kind of looking pretty comfortable, I would say. And I really like what you did here too with the type experiments
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Just seeing what I liked from from my
Yeah,
little
I really
collection.
like how you're comparing them and kind of going in that direction. So it's feeling really good to me, I would say. So yeah, I'm almost kind of liking where this is going. I do like the first two, just because it's bold and it has like a sort of a fun play to it. It's sort of classic but contemporary at the same time,
Mhm.
and sort of rounded corners to kind of give it a little bit of a fun, youthful feel. Is sort of the shape and the form of it.
Right.
But then, yeah, those two just I tend to gravitate towards that. So it'd be really interesting to kind of see like that font work its way within this sort of layout of the tag,
Mhm.
where it's sort of in the background, like in the background, foreground, right?
Right.
And maybe hold on to that. And then I would love to see like a red version of the tag where it's kind of like the same outline, but using the same colors from what's underneath it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You're making perfect sense.
so I would love to see that. And then at the end, maybe we can move the tags towards the top here and see what that would look like, and the bottom. So maybe do a
Mhm.
comparison of top and bottom overall, if that helps.
Yeah,
So
totally. Yeah, I haven't explored that like top and bottom thing. I've just been focusing on it as it like lays on its side. So like
correct. Mhm.
orientating it like, yeah, it kind of opens my mind up a little bit. I hadn't been playing with those dots too much, I guess.
Yeah, anything with color obviously will always get the viewer's attention. So I really like where it's going overall, and just all the variations and the explorations are feeling good to me. So um, yeah, it's good. It's moving pretty good, man. So well done.
Rad.
Cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. All
Would you
right.
like me to stop sharing? Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
we'll try. We'll go ahead and we'll see another packaging designer's design. So would anyone else from packaging design like to share the design? Kind of share with the overall digital illustration class. That'd be really great to kind of get a little visual for that and give you guys some commentary. Um, Giorgio, I think we haven't seen yours for a minute. Do you have some stuff for your IPA beer? I don't know if you do or
I do have some. It's mostly just like just sketches.
yeah.
Not so
Let's.
much as the final product, but I can still show it.
We're still in development stages, so I would love to show the class a little bit of your beer. And while you're opening that up, I even forwarded you that email. Did you see an email from me about the brewing class? Um,
Oh yeah, I was looking at that. I was
there's a it's interesting.
yeah, I was looking at it. It looked really like it's like yeah, like you're saying, like interesting.
Yeah, there's like a for those that don't know, Giorgio is working on a beer brand, like a new beer brand, and so he's designing the graphics associated with that brand, and I think he also makes his own beer, and it's a certain type of beer, and so but just today, I just saw an announcement of like I think the chemistry class here at Rio is like launching like a brewery class, where you actually learn about brewing your own beer. And so I forwarded to George, just like, hey, this might be something you could do. Who knows? You know. And the brand, for those that don't know, Giorgio, what is the beer brand? And can you give us like a quick 10 or 15-second overview of your project?
Basically the name and like the concept that I went with is called Valhallian Brew,
Mhm.
and I'm making it based off of like Vikings and
Mhm.
just like that like whole like era in general. And so I'm also combining uh like their beliefs of the gods. So that's why I'm adding these logos that I made as
Yeah,
their signs of one of the gods, which is Odin, who actually is in Valhalla, and like
cool.
that's where everybody like that's who everybody like I guess you could say like worships. Like if they're warriors and they die, they go over there.
Awesome. So I love how you're connecting the graphic to the myth and how everything is integrated, right? So it all is part of the story, right? Of Holland. And for the logo, do you have a favorite direction that you're kind of gravitating towards, that you just kind of feel like, oh, this is kind of feeling really good to me from your sketches or illustrations?
Well, the design choice that I kind of wanted to go with
Mhm.
was to actually have like a whole design on the actual can itself. But I'm also looking at another approach of just doing it really simple and using probably one of these designs.
So like two approaches essentially.
Yeah.
Cool. And one would be what we see on screen, right? Which is a little bit more like a scenic design, right? And then you're thinking about like, was that the minimalistic one, which was sort of like the ancient drawings, as it were? Was that the one you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I would say then I remember those two directions. So that would definitely work for you. And I do like the logos are cool. Is there one particular logo that you're going towards? Is it like is it Valknut or Horns of Odin that you seem to be gravitating towards?
I kind of like the geometric shapes on the one that's
Mhm.
called Valknut.
Yeah. And how does that connect? What is Valknut? Is that a reference to language, character name, someone in
It's a
particular?
reference. It's also a reference to Odin.
Okay. So then I do like the geometric one actually. It's just really bold and stands out. It has it has a weight and depth to it. So I like how it kind of conveys strength, right? Anytime you use like a thick anything or bold form, shape, geometric, organic, you're going to get something that has a weight to it, right? And so I think that that geometric pattern does feel really dynamic to me. I compared to the two that we see, and overall, um, the sketches are cool, but I do like the Bagnu sort of logo a bit more, and the redraw is great too. So you did a nice job with that as well. So I wouldn't mind taking a look at that. I know that the positioning is a little bit different. Like Valknut, it looked like it had like 2 points in alignment towards the top versus the actual tracing that you created is a little bit um, off center, but I'm not really against it. I'm just noticing that a little bit. But again, nitpicky. I'm not being nitpicky. If I'm being nitpicky, that's a good thing because it's moving in the right direction. So,
Wait, sorry. Are you referring to the actual like sketches or the
or
final
the actual
final?
redraw here. So if I was going to refer to the annotation, so like basically, let me move back there. So like these 2 points here are slightly angled versus like the logo here, they're aligned a little bit,
Oh, okay.
and again,
Yeah.
if I'm being nitpicky, that's a good thing. I just wasn't sure if it was intentional or not to have those points there.
No,
But
yeah, it was intentional to have them offset. Is that like
yeah, there you go.
just drawing them like themselves? Like I was having a really hard time. So.
Okay, so I think you made some good adjustments overall. Um, okay, and so it's feeling pretty good to me. I would say, and then the can itself, let's take a look at the can design. Or were you going to do this with, because I know you have like the top and the bottom, which is basically sort of a background scene. Will everything within this section of the bottom of your can be completely like a scene, like overall scenic appearance, like we'll actually look, almost looking into a picture, as it were, where you have like a blue sky and then you have sort of like your image here on the top? Will it actually fill the entire can and create like a photo like scene, you're thinking?
I was thinking about that, but then I was also thinking about like limitations when it comes to like actually getting like colors on the can.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about if I were to go with this scenic route, I'd probably want to make this blend into like these like designs, like have it be like almost like a silhouette, just like a pure color,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and like just have it on the top and bottom like that.
Oh, I see. So solid color overall, not so much not so photo realistic or photo like, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at it, because once we render onto the can, it's going to have a dimension to it anyway. And lately, a lot of sort of the minimalist or sort of clean illustrations, a lot of packaging related to beers and alcohol seem to have a little bit more of a higher illustration like quality. And so yeah, let's lean into your strengths of illustration and see what that looks like. And and kind of build that scene. Do you feel like by Thursday we might have a couple of like a render of one of those concepts or this particular concept? Would that make a little bit more sense?
I kind of wanted to make like one of the scenic one and also of the simplistic one, just like early starter ones, just to get an idea almost.
Yeah,
And then
let's go
from
with
there.
that. And then just build the illustration. Don't worry about the can because we can bring it into an Adobe Dimension software and literally input the graphic over and it does the rendering for you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So simply concentrate on the illustration, and then we'll kind of cover a little bit tonight, dimension and what its powers can do. Okay.
Okay.
Right on, man. And then hopefully we'll get to try the beer one day, or I'll get to try it, or so we can see how it goes. Are you still moving forward with the designs? I'm saying like the beer brewing process or getting some type of traction with the product.
Well, there's actually a problem with that. So like,
Okay.
that was like before spring break, right?
Okay.
Trying to remember. The actual making, like the actual like meat itself,
Mhm.
like to make it into IPA.
Mhm.
Me and my friend were having like difficulty actually getting it to like be like essentially it wouldn't be like a mead at that point. It'd be just like a regular IPA, but with like a honey like flavor.
Okay. And
So
so like you're learning about the give and take of the process, or you were saying,
yeah, I'm like learning the process of it, but like my friend's saying that it might be possible to actually get it to be like a mead, but like alcoholic, like a IPA.
Mhm.
But it's just like a whole like process of like getting like the right ingredients.
Well, there you go. You can take the class, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, let us know how that process goes. I'm always interested in your journey of developing this product because it'd be really cool to say concept to completion and here's the beer, it's sip, 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 you know?
Mhm.
So it'd be really cool to actually see it and show it to the class from like concept to completion, an actual product that's in the market. So I know that's not the class. It's not a business class, but you could be a really great example of like an actual like prototype slash launch of a business within the class. And that would be a really cool project to share, like a case study. Like student developed, student monitored, student set up, and here's the packaging and here's the process of that. So keep all the sketches, keep all the records of it, and then we'll share with the class as the weeks come.
All right.
All right, well done. This looks great. All right. So morning guys. So morning, good evening. For those of us who just joined us, I just took a couple of minutes to share with the class just some of the things happening in packaging design. And so hopefully you found that to be a bit enlightening from the process, from sketches to completion and the whole logo design of it all. And so hopefully you enjoyed that. But I just wanted to take a couple of moments to fit in a couple of comments, and we'll basically going to move forward from here. Okay. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to open up the, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everybody. I'm going to open up our breakout rooms. And I'm going to check in with digital illustration. Tonight, we're going to be going over the t-shirt design and kind of checking in with everyone to see how their designs are going. And then for packaging design, we'll be doing the same thing as well. For packaging, we're going to be reviewing Adobe Dimension, or at least I'm going to start talking a little bit about it and sharing my, I'm actually going to be showing you guys, and I'll share it with the class a little bit too, my, one of my project models from Disney, which was the Toy Story Etch-a-Snack. And let me see if I can open it up for you. Okay. And this is basically Photoshop, but I found my old project from a few years back, and so for packaging, I'm going to basically share with you a little bit of like this process of like how I essentially went from Illustrator to Photoshop, and how this product basically came from Illustrator using a feature in Illustrator, which is the 3D render or 3D effect. what I basically did is that when I kind of went through the concept development phase and started doing just some research on the design, I started just drawing these flat, sort of two-dimensional images of the graphics flat, just to see if it would be something I'd be interested in working with. And then from there, right, using some sourced art. So this is some actual art that came from the Disney archives, right? And once I knew specifically like the concept I wanted to go with, I started just basically building some 3D renders of the object. So Illustrator does have these features where you can actually create a 3D extrude or bevel. And it was basically pre 3D modeling, pre-dimension, just using what I had available on my fingertips, pre-Adobe Dimension, yeah. And then basically using that and going from there. So it started off flat, and then from there I went from like a flat image to like a 3D image using that graphic. So if I were to kind of shut off the effect, it started off as just a flat two-dimensional render, right? And then I used the 3D extrude feature just to kind of get a little bit of a feel of what this would look like in a 3/4 isometric view, right? Which is just basically a fancy word for like a 3/4 shot view, just to see it in that dimension. And then I started building some of those pieces individually from a flat, right? Just a flat design. And then from there, I brought it into Photoshop. And when I brought it into Photoshop, that's when I started the arduous task of just basically putting in every shade, every layer, every little feature. It turned into like this like 20 plus layer graphic where everything just started to be built based off that initial panel. So I really learned a lot about like just creating 3D models and shading and adding characters and creating the sense of depth and dimension overall, and just basically building this mock-up, which was going to be set up for just for preview purposes. So from Illustrator, I was able to go into Photoshop to create this 3D model using all the necessary bells and whistles. So this is kind of a way of faking the 3D model experience. And that's a really helpful feature, right? Today, we have programs like Adobe Dimension, and basically with Adobe Dimension, you can actually do these things much, much faster by basically opening up a product, a design, and basically kind of getting a little bit of that world of the model already built into it, and then overlaying your Photoshop graphics on the shape, if that makes sense. So for Giorgio, like he's making his beer, he can literally bring in like a beverage cans. So for example, he could bring in his beverage can, land it onto the Adobe Dimension program, and then basically from here, he can decide where the height is, the dimensions, how bright, how shiny the graphics going to be, and then from there he can basically assign graphics into the object by moving it into that particular piece, if that makes sense. So it's a really cool program in the sense that you can basically tell Adobe Dimension to add those items into it, changing colors, placing graphics on the model, right? And basically attaching those graphics and saying that you want to overlay it. So what I just showed you, right, took hours, right? With this program, it would literally just take me like, seconds or a minute, depending on the processing speed, to like overlay that graphic over this piece in order for it to kind of work. And because I'm streaming and everything, it's obviously pulling up some speed on my computer, but you can kind of see it render. go to the graphic, switch from decal to fill, and then theoretically it's a little bit on the small size, and then I could technically fill it in, and it's kind of filling it towards the top there because of the model, but graphic, can material, and we can kind of like move it towards the top there as it were. So, and you can adjust accordingly. It's taking its sweet time. And then place the image over that. So, but essentially you can map it over it, and it's taking its sweet time. So, oh, let me come back. That's probably because of the can feature there. So I can just go back to the actual Q piece. But yeah, so dimension is really helpful for that regard, guys. So we're going to go over that a little bit and take a look at the program. But this is basically going to be where we're going to model it for packaging design. Once everything's set and done, we'll model into this program accordingly and get it going for you there. And I'm going to stop the share because I don't want it to slow my system there any more than it needs to. Right, Bradley. So that's sort of the concept behind it, right? So we'll go over that. We'll talk about that this evening. So if you don't have your Adobe Dimension set up for packaging design, we'll start thinking about that. But it will be very helpful as we develop some of your graphics and start rendering. And it will probably be the program at the end where everything comes together. Okay, so we'll be doing that as well. So I just wanted to share with digital illustration some of the things that we do in the packaging design class so that you can kind of see how everything kind of integrates from Illustrator to Photoshop to using Adobe Dimension for specific purposes like modeling and rendering and packaging. There's a lot you can do with the programs and the power there's a lot of power behind it, right? So I'm excited for it, and I'm definitely looking forward to kind of sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms, and then we'll talk about our t-shirt designs with the class. And for packaging design, definitely we keep that in mind, like, where we're going in terms of the model. And we'll take a look at those graphics in just a minute. And it's definitely good to be back to you. Last week was such a wild week. And I'm looking forward to getting things consistent. So that's going to be great because we're at week 12 right now, guys. So we're almost towards the end. Okay. And let me go ahead and set up the model here at 1, 2, 0. And all right. So packaging designers, you're there. Amy, I'll send you over there as well. And we'll see everyone in just a few minutes from packaging design. Okay. All right. And graphic designers, good to see everyone here tonight. How did Thursday go? Hopefully we had a good evening of me not talking and just giving everyone some asynchronous time to design and work on their graphics. So hopefully you got a chance to develop that. But I kind of wanted to take some time to hopefully see where you are in the project and just to kind of come back to the t-shirt template a little bit. And just out of curiosity, just based on the class, how many of you guys have gotten a chance to at least start developing a shirt design or have, whether you're in the middle or have completed a t-shirt, just minimum of one? Just curious to know. If you give me a little thumbs up emoji, if you have one at least. Okay. Okay. Anyone have two, just out of curiosity, or have gotten maybe up to 2 designs? Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit of the range. Okay, and then how many guys are tracing a new graphic? Curious to know. Maybe you've altered and wanted to trace a new Mickey graphic and are working on that tracing currently. Okay. Okay, so we got a couple of second images there. Okay, and anyone currently working on the current Mickey graphic, which is the with the arms open, which is on my screen, like are still working on the tracing of that particular graphic. Just checking to see where everyone's at there. Okay, great. So then I would love to maybe share a couple of designs. So how do we feel about that? Can we take a little bit of time? Good question, Jesus. So we will share that in just a few moments. Basically, for whatever design that you're at, whatever stage, I do want to take a peek at some of the designs and give you some feedback. The reason I put this up on my screen is because at the heart of it, at the end of the day, right, we could put so much time into tracing a graphic that while there are some focuses and skills and times and just basically just allotting time to create that tracing, at some point we have to also switch our brains into theory and design mode, right? And at the core of it, it comes down to that background, foreground, or foreground, middle ground, background theory. And that comes back to those packaging principles, right? In my head, I always go from like the tracing mode and all the tools that I have to remember from tracing, right? And let me go ahead and put that into perspective a little bit. So my head is always going into tracing mode, right? Like trace, 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 right? And here's the tools, and here's what needs to get done, and here's how tracing is done, right? And sometimes it can be really comfortable to do tracing. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I can find, once I know what I'm doing, it kind of feels kind of therapeutic. Did anyone get to that point where it was like almost like you felt like really zen about it and just tracing, and it just kind of felt almost nice in a way? Some people kind of find a little bit of zen to it, and some people just straight out hate it because there's a little bit of struggle to it. So and you're learning and you're practicing and you're honing in your skills, and that's okay too. Okay. But going back to what I was alluding to, just coming back to the actual principles of a t-shirt, right? Once we get all those sort of concepts, what are those principles? If I really had to kind of hone it down, it really is the foreground, middle ground, background, right? Creating that sense of 3D space on a flat two-dimensional piece of fabric will always be interesting and stand out, right? At least in that sense, right? So I always kind of put my brain into like that. What's in the front? What's in the middle? What's in the back? Sometimes it's what's in the front, what's in the back, and that's it, right? And then I kind of go into like the framing device of it. Like, does it create this sort of container or frame within the shirt that kind of sits on comfortably as an island, as it were, on the chest? So it's not literal, but it just feels like this sort of contained design that can work on a t-shirt, that can work on a sticker. It just fits in its own sort of container. And so it really comes down to, I feel like those middle ground, foreground, background, followed by the container, and of course the focal point, which is your character or the first thing you want people to see, right? Which would be just, either the boat on the left here or the hammock or the palm trees on the right of that graphic. But there's always a bit of a focal point. So focal point, container, middle ground, foreground, middle ground, background. Okay, so that's kind of at the heart of it. If there's anything you take away from this unit, it would be that. And I just try to kind of show a little bit of that in my design, right? Background is Mickey Mouse, foreground is the actual character, that's middle ground, that's background, foreground, right? For the wear mask, it's, if you really see closely where his arms are at, the type is really in the background technically, and then the arms or the characters in the foreground, right? You could even say Mickey's in the middle, and then the gloves and the mat or the visor and the mask are the foreground. You could even go to that level if you want to, right? But there's a sense of 3D or depth happening there. And the same thing with the ghost, Mickey ghost. There's a little bit of the middle ground, background happening there in addition to the foreground, right? So we have background, we have foreground, and that's also happening to some extent too, okay? So we just want to kind of see where you are in that process, and I want to jump in and kind of just take a couple of minutes per student to kind of review. So we're going to review as a class and see where you are. Okay. So we will kind of jump in, share some comments. Feel free to type in like suggestions and things of that sort, but we should have enough time to kind of get a feel, get some comments, and make some changes between now and Thursday. Okay. So we okay with that? Is everyone feeling comfortable about sharing some of your designs and getting a little bit of input from the class via chat or in person? You know, don't worry about it. You'll be just fine. Okay. But we are all learning. Okay. That being said, do we need 5 minutes to prep or get things situated? Anyone out there need like, hey professor, give me like, 5 minutes tops and to just get my files ready and situated since, or are we good to go right now? If you're good to go right now, maybe you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. If you need 5, type in 5 minutes, and then we'll see where you are in the overall scheme of things tonight. So let's take a look. Looks like we're ready to go. Okay, great. So let's do this. We'll go in order of, we'll just go in a particular order. If you want to type in the chat, if you would like to go first, we'll go in order of the list on the chat. So if you want to go first and share your design, just go ahead and type in if you like to go first. And then we'll just go in terms of the order of chat, those folks that want to share their designs. Okay. And then we'll get you going. And then I'll just go down the list based on the chat that folks have and things of that sort. So we'll take a look. We'll go fairly quick, give some feedback and see where everything is going overall. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. So go ahead and type that in, and then we'll take a look, and then we'll do some check-ins. Okay. If there's a situation that you have, or perhaps you're not ready, send me a direct message or private message, and then we'll try to talk privately, and then that'll help. We can give you some feedback that way if that helps too. Okay. And we can go into like the one-on-one session and do it that way. Okay. All right. All right, guys, let's jump in. Dre, I think you made the volunteer. So let's go ahead and have you share, sir. Take a look at your designs and then give you some feedback. Okay.
All right, sounds good. I have it right here. Let me share my screen.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so I only have 2. This one is the one I was showing you earlier.
Let's take expand my screen.
I changed these to be, not textured. They're flat colors now. Nice pyramid, and then these kind of go around.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. I can zoom in here. It looks all right. And then I got this one. I don't know why. I just kind of thought of thinking of James Bond for some reason. But I thought this design was kind of cool.
Okay, so you're kind of going with a theme. So then is there a particular theme that you want to go for? We see like a James Bond sort of mystery sort of feel, and then we have a pyramid theme, is it? Or
yeah, it's kind of like a magical kind of feeling because they have these rings and stars all around him, with him just kind of being on the top of the pyramid.
Okay. So you mentioned magical theme, right? So that's exactly what I was going towards. So if you want to go with a magical theme, okay, first of all, this is black and white, right? You went with more of a black and white?
Yeah.
Okay, so just wanted to make sure that it's not my screen or anybody else's screen. So it is meant to be black and white, and that's totally cool. That saves on cost as well. Now, for magical theme, I would probably, a couple things I would do. Now, obviously we have something in the foreground, something in the background, and then we have a lot of elements. And I know that you pulled that from, that you had pulled the graphics from, I think, Vecteezy, one of the resources sites, right? In this situation, what I would do in this is for the pyramid portion of it, let me see if I can kind of pull back. I actually kind of like how the magical sort of sense of Mickey's happening within the red of the square here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though we have the pyramid on the bottom, it's very geometric, right? And it's a geometric form, and we have a lot of organic forms happening within Mickey, and that's working, right? For me, it would be fun to maybe see what this would look like without necessarily the pyramid, and just see the stars and the planets and the sort of like the everything flying around him, if that makes sense,
yeah.
right? Because if it is magical, I'm asking myself, is the pyramid quote magical, right? Like if a child were to walk in, a 5-year-old would walk in and say, "Ooh, stars, magic, great," but would they say the same thing about a pyramid, right? Right. So thinking about it from like the child perspective for me, is a really great technique I like to use. Where it's like, would a 5-year-old totally understand this, right? I would say within the stars and where the red is, for sure, magical theme, cool, right? Below that, where the pyramid is, it's like, oh, well, perhaps we just don't have the pyramid, and we will just see it with all the magical themes. And here's another thing: if you're looking to add some additional element, it would be really cool to maybe add, or really interesting visually to add, like a type, right? Or Mickey, or a day of some sort, or a year, right? Or magic in the Disney font. And we'll talk a little bit about fonts and how we can kind of build that and incorporate it. But we could even use type as a way to create a sense of depth and space. Okay. So I would find that helpful.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
And again, some straight, simple feedback on how we can go about it, but it's moving in the right direction. So we definitely want to build upon that. So in the beginning, students tend to add, and I always like to, and that's a good thing. And then eventually we always want to pull back and ask ourselves, oh, is this magical? And would a 5-year-old say this is magical as well, right? So I would say that would be there. Okay. I think the magical theme is in line to the character. Even though the James Bond theme is really fun, I don't know if Mickey actually has been seen shooting a gun or anything like that.
Cool.
And it's cool in the sense of like underground, right? And like sort of, and hey, if you want to keep going with that, go for it, right? If you want to keep it, probably what I would suggest is if there's a way to make the character look more like a James Bond type, that would kind of integrate properly. And let me go ahead and clear out the box there. And because we have the tracing capabilities, right? So if we can trace, which you've acquired, and you can do that now,
throw like a suit on him or something.
You could put a suit, you could put a bow tie, right? You can totally give him a little bit more of like a European look or feel, whatever that could look like, right? And even change the colors of the outfits to kind of reflect that. Shades. He could look more spy, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And the more that it looks more spy-like, then we can add to it. So you can add to the character as well if you like, to enhance it, or even change the pose that is more European or more, higher luxury looking or suit looking as well, if that makes sense. So because now we can trace anything with the pen tool. Okay. So the quick solution would probably be maybe shades, bow tie, alter some of the colors to see what that would look like, and then kind of come back and refer to it, right? The other thing too is, if it is like a blood thing, typically I don't recall blood being transparent. So if that was the case, then maybe more solid.
I just wanted to copy the transition that they use in the James Bond, like I think like it was like the games or something, where you'd see through the barrel right here, and then the blood would come spilling down the string. So I kind of tried to get this shape going.
Yeah, even when we do the next review, if you want to kind of take a quick screenshot and have it on the side, so we can do sort of a side-by-side comparison, that would be helpful. But are you creating a sense of depth, dimension? Yeah. Is it contained? Absolutely. Is it fun? So it's more of a aligning to the theme, if it were, right? And making it a little bit stronger. I think that will help overall within the process. Okay. Right on, man.
Thank you.
So moving in the right direction. So looking pretty fun.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing. So just like that. It's looking pretty good. Let's keep going. Francesca, I know you volunteer, so I'd love to see,
Yes.
take a look. So good to hear from you again.
Okay, let me just share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Very cool.
So this was my first design.
Mhm.
I just started with the Mickeys. I kind of went for more retro feel and almost like he was being animated. So he's moving across the shirt in the right direction. And then I added a font or text around the
Nice.
Mickey.
Okay. And that's traced completely, right? The Mickey character. It looks like you
Yes.
pen tooled that character. So nice job on the pen tool. And I do like it as a beginning part. It's looking pretty good. Did you want to keep it in black and white by any chance, or was it intentional? It seems like you intentionally wanted to create a focal point.
Yeah, I did want to keep it with the red shorts and the yellow shoes because I thought it would pop more. But if it were black and white, I'm not sure how much it would pop.
Sure.
Pop off the shirt or yeah.
No, totally. I think it's fun. I think it's looking really, really moving in the right direction. The sense of motion, what's kind of getting me in my sense is when it's, and I'll try to annotate here. When we look at these, oh, I love the arrows. The arrows are much easier overall. So these gray vector objects, they have an outline. Okay. I would love to see it without the outline.
Okay.
Because to create a sense of motion, the gray will create the motion. The black outline kind of grounds it a little bit.
That makes sense.
And so to make it truly feel like it's moving, I would remove the black and kind of just keep to the silhouette of the gray. That way there's no outline to kind of keep it grounded, as it were.
Okay.
So that's a quick change that can happen. You don't have to do that now. I'm just making a quick comment there. So I think that'll help the design. And then part of me feels like we can even expand the scaling of it so that we can align sort of like where the ears are here to the edge of the bar there, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So creating an alignment, we call it, will help. So if we move Mickey's nose a little bit more this way, so he aligns to the line there, we create this nice sort of alignment which balances the design, creates a sense of structure. We get that concept from poster designs and website layouts, pretty much creating order and structure. And so I would expand so that they align to the edges there, and even do the same for the type. If we move the type a little bit towards increasing the type so that the E aligns to this line at the edge and M just stays exactly where it is, I think we'll get more strength in the alignments and giving it a little bit more of a stronger presence with the name and the graphics and everything of that sort.
Right. Okay.
So alignment is key. It helps. You could totally keep this since 1928.
Yes.
That'll allow it to maintain some asymmetry. So I like that.
And that's what I was going for. I didn't want it to be so balanced.
Correct, because a little bit of a asymmetrical can allow it to focus, and I see what you're doing there too. Like if you made it asymmetrical, it's definitely kind of underneath Mickey here to kind of create more emphasis or create more of a focal point. So you're kind of positioning him under the color graphic to kind of draw my eye that much closer to him, or see the color graphic. So I would make those adjustments, and then we can kind of circle back and see where it looks like, and I don't know. We could even experiment a little bit with some color with the shirt, and see what could be some alternate colors that work with gray. Reds, red, yellows, blacks. I'm almost wondering if a certain type of color T-shirt could help the design that much more. But that would be, if I'm being nitpicky, that's a good thing because those are just little details that can kind of enhance the design that much more. Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
I also have my second T-shirt design.
Sure. Let's take
I
a
would
peek.
like to show you. So this one I went for more 80s themed, very bright, vibrant colors. Just make it pop.
Yeah, I really like this one. The background is so the containment is great. I love the way it's feeling very contained. So you're creating a little bit of containment with the shapes, which is great. Background is obviously working. Mickey's in the foreground. You traced it nicely. That's a cute graphic that you traced there.
Thank
And I
you.
do like the selection of fonts as well. They're geometric to match the shapes in the background. So you're creating a sense of not variety, but a sense of unity by kind of creating these similar shapes and forms, right?
Yes.
Instantly, my instinct was saying like we can go bigger on the Mickey graphic. So
Okay.
Mickey himself can be enlarged that much more. I think part of me wants to see him expand a little bit so that the ears perhaps reach here, and then his shoe can probably overlap a little bit towards creating a little bit more depth over like the blue block towards the edge there.
Okay.
So I would love to see him increase just a little bit more so that he's definitely a greater focus. And typically anything that is in the foreground would feel like it's closer to you. So things that are closer look typically larger, and things in the background would always look a little bit more distant. So I would say playing with that a little bit would help, just kind of increasing the scale of it.
Okay.
Possibly rotating him maybe to the left 2 or 3, 5 degrees here and there, just to see what that would look like. Anything that's moving at an angle would look very dynamic. And the reason I'm kind of bringing that up is like because of the lines that are angled here, it almost feels like I'd love to see his arm be around that same angle as well.
Right. Okay.
Just to kind of align with it and create a sense of like unity with the angle of the line, right? Little things like that, right? Like where subconsciously people kind of see it as balance, but as designers, we know specifically what that looks like and increases our sensitivity, right?
Okay.
And I don't know why that is, but I like a little bit of variety. So part of me would love to see like probably like a little color in the lettering here,
Okay.
similar to that. So whether it's like a yellow to in the O, I'm kind of curious about that one. So I could be completely wrong. Maybe like a little triangle in the K, but
So, like in the background or like
probably
within the font?
and maybe drawn into the font a little bit, where the
Okay.
negative spaces are with the K or something of that sort.
Okay.
Part of me, it's an experiment, it's a detail, but it would be nice to see what that would look like. And if it doesn't look good, then I've been known to be wrong as well. I get curious, and I always like to follow my curiosity and to see where things are going. So
Okay.
I think that'll be great. But it's looking great, and the traces are fun. So definitely looking like that. And then once we do those, again, I think a t-shirt, like an associated color for the shirt would be interesting to explore as well.
Okay.
So as light as the gray, but maybe it could be a yellow, but like a baby or a lighter shade of baby
Pastels.
blue or exactly more pastels to kind of balance the weight. So similar
Okay.
colors, but more pastel and lighter to kind of be oriented with it. And then we have some interesting portfolio pieces that you can add to the work. So that'll be great.
Thank you.
Nice, looking good. This is great. Great fun. All right, Jesus, let's take a look at your design and then see where we're going with yours. Okay. Okay. And
Can I be seen? Yeah.
yes, I can hear you now. Okay, perfect. And we can see it.
Okay. All right then. Well, I really had a hard time picking a background, and I kind of was going for the not too complicated pattern and lettering. So I found this, and because Mickey's arms are wide open, why not? He looks like he's asking for a hug, so why not 3 hugs?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it one design or 2 designs? It's looking fun. I'll say that.
By one design, 2 designs. What do we mean by that?
Oh, so I see another design on the right. Is it? I kind of wanted to get a little bit of a feel, or is that kind of?
I see. Yeah, this is the first T-shirt. That's right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then let's pan over to the right, and this is the second one.
Oh, okay, great. That's a fun one. It kind of reminds me of like Italy.
Yes, that's right. And it might have been. I wonder if that's what the image came from. there were some Italian words too.
Mhm.
So I was looking for some art sources.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah, I would
They
say.
are
Oh, you were saying? Mhm.
they are images that I was tracing from. So let me see if I could turn that on. There you go. That's the original one. The original Vespa.
Oh, I see. So that's a Vespa. I kind of like the way it looks a little bit rough there, actually. Like the contrast
Right
of
here,
like.
the way it looks right now.
I mean,
Or
that's
with the,
working, or the other, or even the original can be a little bit fun too. But
oh,
either
okay.
or. But
Yeah.
let's talk about this one since it's on screen. Is
Sure.
this like complete or halfway done or like 80% done? Any thoughts on where you think it might be?
I think I'm 18% done. I wanted to drag down the Mickey sitting actually on the Vespa, but or I could keep him hanging there, but maybe he hit a bump or something. But I could go either way. I haven't. But originally I wanted to sit the Mickey down on the Vespa, and as you can see, I do have some red outlines there, so I'm not done yet by any means.
Okay. I think and the Mickey on top was a redraw, right? Using pen tool.
Yeah. Yes, I did. And where's the original image? Let's see. Somewhere in there. There you go. And let me see. How do I forget? Where's my Mickey? Is that it?
Oh, I see. Okay, so it comes from that particular graphic there, and then you were kind of pulling it from it. Okay, I see where you're going with that. Nice. Okay. Well, it was a nice retrace. I'll say that, and I think that's from like the current cartoon as well, and it's kind of looking a little bit more like that. So I see how you're integrating it. A couple of things there. I mean, there's so many ways you could go with the graphics these days, right? Like you could go with like a photorealistic something and then mix it with a graphic, and those contrasting elements could kind of work in and of itself. So kind of like real life, like Mickey in real life, as it were. Could be like a theme in it that you can play with. The black and white. I mean, I'm anything works in black and white as long as the composition works graphically. So I would probably say for this one, would love to see him obviously on the Vespa, maybe interacting with some type of text or lettering. I kind of think about like the Italian posters, and sort of like the 50s and the 60s, which was like the era of like the Vespa, where everyone's like well dressed, driving around in a Vespa, sort of thing,
Sure.
sort of concept, right? So, I mean, I don't know the history of Vespa, but I think it was Italian made, and everything was contained and covered because to protect the Italians' clothing, because everyone dressed so well, so they didn't want or is it related to the French? But
No,
they actually.
it's the Italians. I went to Rome and I was really flabbergasted at seeing young ladies wearing miniskirts and high heels while riding the scooters in busy downtown streets of Rome.
Right, and I think that was where the concept of it. I mean, just generally, whether it's French or Italy, I think it was related to fashion, right? Like, hey, there's traffic, there's things happening. I like to dress. We dress well, so we need to make sure that whatever two-wheel transportation has to have something to cover the engine or the mechanics of it, so that it doesn't dirty the clothes. Right.
Right. Oh,
So,
okay. I see.
so that if I understand correctly, that was sort of the concept behind it, that it has to look good, but also protect the clothing as well. And I should look good, protect the clothes, and I should drive good while I look good in a suit or dress of some sort. So that's conceptually where my head goes. And so
Sure.
if Mickey's kind of like fashionable on a Vespa, then that's a theme, right? And
Sure.
then I say, oh well, if that's where my thoughts go, my curiosity goes and when I first look at this graphic, oh, I wonder what would it look like if Mickey was in Italy and kind of and like driving in a Vespa, and maybe it was in the era, and would he be dressed well, or if it's Minnie, would she be dressed well on a Vespa, right?
Right.
So it's almost, I like to build, it's all stories to me. I always like to build these stories in my head. where it's sort of like, oh, like a what if, or, this is a, a scene from Italy and Mickey is driving in Italy. What would that look like? How can we enhance the story, right? While still having foreground background, while still doing some type of containment within the device, or in a type interaction, perhaps with type. So that's that story component that I always come back to with these characters. So those are where my thoughts go. Kind of goes back to the, with Dre, like with Dre's, like, oh, would he wear a bow tie, right? Would he be, would it be Minnie, right? Driving with them? Would they be together in this situation? Is there a color to it or not, right? I think black and white works fine, but but would he be dressed for an occasion, and where would he be going, And is he opening his arms to kind of share, like, look at my outfit, or look at me driving this Vespa and check me out in my Vespa and I look great, Those are some things that kind of come to mind. Stories, right?
Sure.
That could enhance it. So that's where my head kind of goes. And I think that's why I gravitated to this design, because it has a more of a story feel, or it's abstract enough for me to kind of create a story from it based off the object and knowing a little bit about the car or the object, or the motorcycle, I should say. So, or scooter.
Right.
So when I go back to the free hugs, right? And we look at your free hugs design, then part of me still keeps going with the story, right? Like, oh, well, if it's a free hug, then are we, I see where that starburst is happening in there. And we're kind of making you see, like, hey, look at this, like, exciting, right? Kind of comic book, like, boom. So I kind of think a little bit about, like, comics, and how, there's like these starbursts, and there's like type inside of it. And I think about that a little bit, right?
Sure.
What would that look like, right? And would the font change, right? Would it be more of a free hugs in a comic book looking sort of flow, like a classic comic book?
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So you see where that, and that just, again, that's that knowledge of just looking at different graphics and where my mind sort of gravitates towards. So I always try to think of it from, like, if a 5-year-old were to come in and see this, then, would they reference like a comic book, or these days it would be like an animated comic book scene, or a movie that was inspired by comic books. Like we always kind of pull from those times, whether it's animated or not. But I always think about, like, the origin of the shape, and I get very curious. And sometimes I just go where my mind goes first, as an initial reaction, right? So sometimes I just go and it's like, oh, it kind of looks like this, or I'm getting curious about that, or I'm having a thought about this, right? So
Right.
I think that's where my mind's going. It's like, oh, I wonder what this would look like if it was like a comic book feel, right? Then you have a lot of these interesting things, like a pattern in the within the shape, or like a dotted pattern or lines happening within it. I would definitely take a look at, like, comic book vector graphics. Like Vecteezy, the site repository, has that, or even like a live trace of, like, some comic book elements and incorporating into the star. I think that comic book look and feel will help, in addition to the font as well. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Profe.
So that's a theme, right? So I'm always thinking of themes, right? And stories, and when something is off, I just try to put it into a story or a theme of some sort, and I push to kind of make it happen, if that works. So those are a couple of thoughts about it. So looking good.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank
Works out.
you.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So
Thank you, Profe.
no problem. Thank you for sharing, Jesus. All right, guys. So I noticed that we're not volunteers. So does that mean that we're still making some adjustments, or should I randomly pick someone? I'm just curious to know. I know some of you guys have some graphics, but it's, as you can see with our first 3 folks, it's not as bad, right? And it's totally safe, and I don't yell, I don't bite. So it's totally cool. So. All right, cool. We have a couple more folks. Evelyn, thank you for sharing there. Okay. When you're ready, you can definitely share your screen, and or put an image in the chat, and then we can kind of go forward from there. Okay.
Yeah.
These are looking great, guys, so far. I have like something in my eye. I think I have like a hair, what is it? An eyelash in my eye, and it's like always never fun to have an eyelash in your eye. Okay. So, all right, Miss Evelyn. So you're going to, well, let's take a peek. It looks like you have like maybe 2 or 3 in your preview there.
Yeah. So for this, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little. I hear a little something in the background, but we can hear you. But we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry if I cut off. My Wi-Fi's like not really
No worries.
supportive right now, but let me try to get as quick as possible through this. So this one, so you said like vintage. I was thinking like the old Disney movie intro, so that's why I added like the castle in the background. And then one of their like most popular quotes, which is like "Where dreams come true."
Very cool. And was there a second or third one floating around?
Yeah, the second one is.
Let's take a look. I always like to get a feel for everything.
So this one, I was going more for like a psychedelic vibe to it.
Very cool. Like the trace there.
Yeah, and that's what I have so far.
Okay, so we have 2. Okay, not 3. Okay, that's totally fine. Even if it's 1, I'm okay with 1. Just because we spent a little bit of time putting it all together. Do you have a favorite?
I like the psychedelic, but I just feel personally, I feel like there's something missing. I just don't know quite what.
Yeah. I do kind of like the psychedelic just because it's just so different because of the graphic. You know, I kind of think about tie-dye, right? And a little bit of those tie-dye shirts. Like I feel like the tie-dye like pattern could help. I know it's a little tricky because we would need to find a tie-dye pattern to kind of add it to the design. So I would first, I'll work with you on that one. Like if we kind of find like a vector tie-dye pattern of some sort, we can probably integrate it somehow into the design. You know, would this work on a solid background color? Yeah, absolutely. Would this work if it was like a tie-dye inside the black, so reversing it, right? Solid t-shirt and a gradation of the Mickey face. Yeah, totally. So I would experiment with that a little bit. Maybe we can find like a tie-dye pattern, and then maybe copy and paste the t-shirt, right? And have two versions, like the one you have right now, right? With like a modified tie-dye pattern that we could find. And that's an experiment, right? Like that would be like an experiment, that one. And then maybe we can copy and then the other one is a copy and paste of the same design, but yet we reverse the colors, right? So what's black is tie-dye, and what's the t-shirt is then black. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So we can contrast it that way. So I would love to see it in 2 versions. I'm a big believer in comparing, right? Graphic designs, always good to compare the designs just to make a comparison. Sometimes our memories are short, so we can't remember every design as we get older, but we can compare and we can let the computer do the saving for us. So I would do it in that regard. And this was traced, right? You used the pen tool to trace that graphic?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's different. I like it, and it's very bold. So in that instance, there's a lot of ways you can go with it, right? Just the graphic with like a pattern on the inside of it, like I've seen some posters typically do, or adding some text could also be another option. But I don't feel the need to add text to it. It's just so bold with the drip that it's just that I think color will help it enhance that much more. Okay, so that would be my comment for that one. And then for the first one, where you went kind of vintage, I think like 80s. I think this is like a little bit of the 80s or 90s castle in the background, right? With the silhouette. Was that a pen tool or a live trace of that logo? I'm just curious about that.
It was I think a trace, and then I just copied and pasted.
So pen tool or did Illustrator do the tracing? Just wanted to make sure.
Pen tool.
Okay, so that's the pen tool that you did there, right? Can we zoom in on the background there and just see like the gaps in between the castle?
that
Yeah,
good?
yeah, and thank you for zooming in. So the castle to me feels a little bit janky. Was the image quality low, or
I
was the?
think it was like a bit pixelated.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
where I kind of did pen tool.
yeah, I would say I would love to see some of the line art in the background cleaned up a little bit. And that could be done at a later point. Okay, but basically using the direct selection tool, so the white arrow, um, we could technically use the white arrow to click onto points and straighten them out, as it were, right? And
Right.
kind of and make those lines, those horizontal lines, a bit more straight, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We could even find like a higher quality or like high resolution Disney logo. But that's like the first thing, because Mickey is well drawn, and his lines are clean, it almost makes the castle want to be as clean as well, if that makes sense. So if I'm being nitpicky, that's a good thing because you're creating depth already, background, foreground, right? I like how you went with the silhouette to kind of give it a little bit of a two-color t-shirt feel to it. And so I like where that's going. For the type, can we take a look at the type or the text a little bit? Where dreams come true. Okay. So for this one, I feel like here we have a little bit of a gap from the bottom to the top. Now, wherever that gap is, we could technically move where dreams come true right underneath the castle so that the W is at the edge here and the E is at the edge there. Does that kind of make sense, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, students will be like, well, it's blocking the text. I can't read the text. But if it's like a very common term, right? Most Disney fans will know where dreams come true, right? They'll probably like know where that is. And there's a lot of negative space between that. And going back to the t-shirt principle of creating a container, right? Where everything feels like it's contained. I think that will strengthen the container or the island of that form. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Because when you zoom out, if we can kind of see the t-shirt a little bit more on screen, when I look at it, I see, and if you could zoom out for a second there, Evelyn, and I'll draw a little square to kind of show you kind of how I'm sort of noticing it. So for me, it when there's a gap from like here to here, it's like I take into account, like, even though it's a blue t-shirt, to me it's like a blue gap of t-shirt there, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
so for me, my eye always wants to kind of close gaps and create a sense of unity. And that could easily be accomplished by taking that text here and then moving it up over here within the graphic, if that makes sense, right? You could even like put a little bit of a gap so that it's so almost like the distance between the lines of the castle, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then Mickey could technically go up a little bit higher so that he's sort of like in, if I were to maybe draw like a black shape, like he's almost like over the type, or maybe at the edge of the type, as it were, right? So just by
Yeah.
looking at like the square and the shape, like even just looking at the shapes themselves here, it almost feels like that rectangle, that horizontal red, is almost like a bit more unified, a bit more dimensioned, and it's kind of bringing it together, as it were, right? So I always like to imagine like my art kind of like these, squares, and what would these squares look like, or what would these shapes look like if they were to kind of interact with one another. That's kind of how my mind looks at it also sometimes. Like, if these were shapes, then how would these shapes like work integrated overall, right? And then I look at the details, and then I see that they're characters and things like that. So, or a castle, or it's Mickey, or something of that sort. Okay. But yeah, I think it's there. I think it's just getting the lines cleaned up and just making some slight shifts and adjusting, and then you're hitting it. So t-shirt is working pretty good too. I don't mind it. The blue t-shirt does kind of give me a little bit of a vintage feel, so that's great. And then for the font, does that verify the font by any chance? Like, was that almost similar to the font back from those days? I know you went serif, so that's kind of giving a little bit of a classic feel, but I wasn't sure if that was like a little bit more exact.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think when you have a second, I think if we have a second, we can kind of look at that font. Even if it's like the class, like vintage Disney logo or vintage Disney 80s vintage logo, something like that. I would maybe just double check the font just to make sure that it's kind of aligning to that era too. So it's good. I think it's moving in the right direction, and I think you got some good things going on there. So, and you're putting the principles to play, which is good. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. That's great. Fun. All right. And let's go to Oscar. So Oscar, thanks for volunteering. And let's take a look at your design.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome.
So this is my screen.
Mhm.
This is my first design.
Very cool. Okay. One t-shirt design, right? And you put a lot of time into it looks like. So
Yeah, I'm working on a second one, more of a retro, but I changed the Mickey to the Steamboat Willie. So I'm still not done with that one, but this is my first design.
okay, great. Can we take a zoom and see what it looks like a little bit more closely?
Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's take a peek. So I like the banner. I think the banner is really cool, fun, and I do like sort of like the the lines of like explosion happening there. Let's take a look. 1928 and foundation and all that. I think the first thing my mind goes is wanting to see it in black and white. Like,
yeah, I remember you did like everything in black and white with a few clicks. I just don't remember how you did it.
Yeah, so if you click onto the Mickey graphic with your grouping there, so like maybe like one of the elements.
Highlight everything, or
we could do that. Yeah, I think it
Okay.
should convert. And then you go up to edit, or is it file? I believe it's file. Document color mode, or actually it could be. No, actually, excuse me. It should be under edit. I always forget.
edit colors.
Color settings or edit color. Yeah, edit colors and switch it to, I think it's black and white there. Or grayscale.
This one convert to grayscale.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Cool.
In 2 seconds, it'll do the colors there for it. So, and then we could even adjust like the face to be more like white, and then maybe the shorts could be like a lighter shade of gray, just to kind of give it a little bit more contrast to the, or even in the oval, that gray could even be lightened a little bit or darkened a little bit more, just to give it more contrast of the character. So the first thing that was the first thing. The other thing that I instantly kind of go with is that sense of depth, right? Instantly I feel like, oh, what would Mickey look like if he was kind of bursting out of the oval, so that it looks like he's over it but coming out of it, because that expression almost seems like he's like bursting out, right?
Gotcha.
So for me, it's like, oh, it would be really interesting to see what it would look like if he was actually like bursting out of that and actually like overlapping the oval to almost as if he was coming out of it. That would give it that sense of foreground, right? Middle ground would be the banner, background would be, you know, that shirt face. So that would be the second thing I'm noticing. And then when it comes to the type, and I'll activate that annotation, part of me would love to see like the type here slightly rotated to go with the direction of the banner, if that makes sense.
I try to manipulate the text, but it would move everything as a whole. It's just, I didn't know how to like add either like curvature or even like the slightest move, like everything would move. So I was having trouble with that, but I do get what you're saying.
Is there any way that you can kind of like remove it from the banner and copy and paste it as its own text box or element that could be adjusted, or is it locked? It's sort of locked into the actual object, would you say?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
so as you can see, like I
oh,
try to move it, but
yep.
even it's, I don't know, it was
I
acting
s-
weird.
we could even expand it if you go to Object Expand.
Object.
It
Sorry.
it
Oh, right there.
oh, no worries. This is good for the class too. And you click OK, expand to outline and fill. It'll turn it into a vector object.
Oh, gotcha.
And then but you can't edit it at that point, right? And then you can now rotate it any direction that you want.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So that would be a quick fix for that, and then that would kind of align to the form. So that would help
Okay.
too.
Cool.
And then the other thing too is there's a bit of a negative space happening within here that feels a little bit odd, right? Like, so I'm always about trying to create that unity and trying to make everything feel like it's like an island, as it were, right? So with those spaces, it almost makes me wonder what it would look like if like maybe the thumbs came up a little bit within them, right? So wherever the almost as if you were imagining the hand as a diamond and you moved it into the upper section, as it were, right? So what if the hands were here where my smaller diamond is, to kind of fill that negative space, like the thumb is filling the negative space underneath the oval, right?
Oh, okay.
And then of course the question is like, oh, what about the 1928, professor? We could potentially then slide the 1928 underneath the fingers, right? Almost like, and I know it's so hard to kind of like visualize it, but like once they're together, you could kind of put 1928 where the red box is, which is under the fingers, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of frames it, and then maybe have those sort of floral elements underneath that, or perhaps smaller and straightened out, as it were. So that's a little bit more of a straight form. So what I'm just doing is trying to reduce the negative space that's happening with those little tiny diamonds and just kind of bring everything a little bit closer together, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So it almost feels like thumbs together, holding up an oval, right? And then 1928, like, underneath it, creating a little bit more containment, a little bit more of a island, as it were, or container out of that form. And I get that from like heraldry and that classic sort of era of like the Middle Ages and shields and crests a little bit, right?
Gotcha.
And I take a little bit of inspiration from that. So anytime there's like an era that I can identify, I'm always trying to like look at those periods in history and just kind of ask myself, what are the principles of design? How are the elements being positioned? And sometimes it really doesn't happen until you actually like get into the project, which then you can just open up your Google and start looking at those graphics, those similar graphics, and start pulling ideas from those similar graphics, right? So it's kind of like mini researches where you're kind of putting in those exercises and deconstructions, as it were, or the principles of design, right? And just saying, oh yeah, I can move it here, I can move it there, I can do it here. Oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of that era. Okay. So yours is a good example of like using those principles of the t-shirt, right? Figure, middle ground, background, container, and then how is filled in with history, right? And looking how like those similar graphics, because everything that's graphic always comes from something comes from something else, right?
Right.
So there's always, trying to know where that something else is always helpful to kind of inform your decision making on layout. And so that's kind of where we get those ideas from. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's moving in the right direction, and we'll take a look at it for a second try, and then we'll see if we need to play with the scaling a little bit. But I'm looking forward to seeing your Steamboat Willie when that's ready too.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
nice. Well done, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Okay. All right, guys. Perfect timing. We're at top of the hour, 8 o'clock. Why don't we do this? Let's take a quick 5-minute break. And how many of you guys are? I know I have one person that wants to show in private. Anyone would like to kind of share in the one-on-one breakout room instead? And if that's you, maybe you can send me a direct message and I can pull you in, and then the rest of the class can work on their t-shirt designs. I can allot for some time for that if that's okay with you. I know I have one request for that. But if that's you, just feel free to send me a direct message. If not, we'll do kind of a call out and see how you're doing on the project, okay? So, oh, they're coming in real fast. One-on-one. Okay, we'll do a break. think about it. Send me a message. We'll do some one-on-ones. I'll pull you guys in, okay? And then I'm gonna at 8:30 hopefully jump in with the packaging design class so we can give them some feedback as well. Okay. All right. Let's take 5, and then we will continue with our share / one-on-ones. Okay. Remember, if I don't hear you from the one-on-one, I'm assuming you want to go public and share with the class. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you in 5. Okay. All right, guys. We are back, and it looks like I'm gonna do a couple of one-on-ones. So if you got some feedback from me, go ahead and make those changes to your t-shirt designs, and we'll basically take a look at them for Thursday. I'm hoping that by Thursday we would, like end of class, we would be pretty much ready to move on. I know I probably put in a little bit of extra time, but I'd rather put in a little bit extra time on this project so that the other ones kind of move a bit more quickly, just because they follow the same pattern in terms of like principles, right? So everything is just builds on one thing over another. Okay. Dre, I think you had your hand raised. I don't know if there was a question you had.
I had a question, yeah.
Yes.
So I have my 2 shirts, and I was working on one of them during the break. But for Thursday, do you require the 3 t-shirt designs done?
No, at this point, I'd rather get one good one or more if you can. So it's if it's it varies. Like sometimes we have one really good one that we can put in the portfolio. I would say minimum, if we have one solid design, that's great. Anything more is a bonus. It would ultimately go towards your portfolio. And anything that's like, typically when it comes to work, if you could show whether it's like multiples of the same project or similar artwork across different types of projects, right? Like those are ways that your portfolio can shine. So I'm a big believer of like, if it's either one really strong, good one with a lot of detailing and it's, visible, or you have like a range and you have a certain range of ideas, if that makes sense. Everyone's going to be in a different position, Yeah. Some of us will have ideas across the board and we have some interesting things, and some of us will have the same idea, but it's very detailed, and that's okay too. So every studio, every company will have its range of needs, quite frankly. So one would be minimum of one, I think will be okay given the time that we have. If you have more than one, that's great. But I think if I get one solid one, will be good.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Good question. Okay. All right, guys. So that being said, if you already received comments, please make those comments. If you send me a direct message, I will go ahead and meet you guys one-on-one. So the order I have so far will be Emily. So Emily, you'll be first. Jordan, I'll get you second. Ellie, third. Elizabeth, fourth. Okay. I will pull you in. So continue to work, and then I will pull you in. And my goal is to kind of get through with everyone, hopefully by about 8:30, 8:40, no later, so that I can spend about a good hour with packaging design and giving them some feedback as well. Okay. And then that way we can kind of get you going there. Yes, Jonathan, I got your message. I think you sent, I want to check the emails, but I want to say you may have sent me your student ID. Totally should be working, but if you can maybe send me the student ID number and one more time and your package, and I will send back the link just to make sure that everything's being logged in properly. I think you might need to log in under a specific Rio Hondo link that's on Canvas and then enter your email. So probably what I would do is log out of the entire Creative Cloud system on your end. And on Canvas, there should be a link which is refers us to the actual Illustrator. Let me see if I can pull it up on my form here, and it should pull us in. And that link should be on Canvas. So take a look on Canvas where it says Adobe Illustrator installation. And there should be a link, which I believe is a riohondo.canvas.com or riohondo.adobe Illustrator. I really want to see it just to make sure I'm not giving you bad information. And give me about 20 seconds so that we can pull it up. And I think it's creativecloud.adobe.com. So access Rio. And reset enterprise password. So let me go ahead and get that going for you, which is creativecloud.adobe.com. Here, I'll send it to you in the yes, Jonathan. Here's the link here, and then see if you can log in on your Real Hondo email address one more time. So it would be like literally your email address for Real Hondo, and then from there, see if you can log in. So following those instructions essentially is what I'm trying to go with. And then accessrail.edu. So see if that works for you. Refer to it on Canvas. It should be under Adobe Illustrator installation. And that should give you some information there to retrieve from, okay? So let's see where that goes. And hopefully that will get resolved in the login procedure. Okay. All right. So then I will move on ahead into the breakout room, guys, and start pulling our folks in. So stand by, and I shall return in just a few moments. Okay. If you're making those changes, like I said, to the designs, and you're more than free to hang out on it there. But if you think you've got everything that you need and you want to make some changes and then return Thursday too, that's okay as well. So if you want to log out and work independently and then return Thursday, we'll be okay there too. Okay. But I'll be here obviously working with packaging design and assisting as well. All right, guys, I will be back momentarily and we'll pull you in just a few seconds there, Emily. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. So we're a little bit past the 9:40, but just wanted to check in. Elliot, I tried to bring you into the breakout room. I wasn't sure if the design came through, but did you want to try to go over something tonight, or can we, or is I could speak Wednesday, or we can even talk Thursday, whichever you feel comfortable with. If you want to type it in the chat, that'd be great. But I noticed I was having a little bit of issue bringing into the breakout room, so we can go that direction, okay? And we'll be setting you up. All right, guys. Okay, no worries. Oh, double screen? Okay. We could try one more time, or we could reschedule. I could totally reschedule at your first available tomorrow if you want to. That could be another option as well. So whichever you feel most comfortable with. Awesome. Okay. What you could even do as well is you can shoot me a couple of images of your design, and then I can even do a video recording with commentary, if that helps, with questions. So whichever you feel most comfortable with. Okay. Or I can just, or you can shoot me an email, let me know you're first available, and we can meet and we can talk tomorrow while everyone's a little bit rested. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. I'll just email you some of the designs for tomorrow. Sorry I missed that. Yeah.
Oh no, it's okay. These things happen, so it's totally fine. But thank you for your flexibility. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see each other on Thursday, and then LA will talk. We'll talk via email tomorrow. Okay, guys, be safe. Have a good night. Rest up, and we'll see you on Thursday. Okay, good class.